Hello there, and welcome to my first Star Wars video ever. If you're coming from my Film 1000 channel, or if you're new to this channel, then welcome. Also, happy Star Wars Day. To celebrate May the 4th, I will be ranking every Star Wars movie from worst to best. Spoilers for every Star Wars movie. So in last place, I have The Phantom Menace. Look, I don't really like anything in this movie, but the music and Kenobi, even back when I was a kid and kind of enjoyed the prequels, I never liked this movie for the longest time. I did not even get the plot to The Phantom Menace because I was either bored or focused on how annoying Jar Jar was. Fans told me there's some sort of ancient Greek philosophy that is in this movie and that it's a masterpiece, so I have to like this movie. It might be a masterpiece or it might not. I don't know. Either way, that doesn't mean I have to like this movie. I don't like anything Shakespeare, and his books are considered masterpieces, and I really don't like them. I can't force myself to enjoy this movie. It also doesn't help that this movie feels so disconnected to the rest of the movies. It feels like you don't even need to watch this movie to understand the Skywalker saga, which is why the Machete Order does exist. I also don't care for any of the characters in this movie, and I'm not invested in them except for Kenobi, of course. One thing I do not understand about the common dislike for the Phantom Menace is how much people really dislike young Anakin. Like, so much. It's kind of crazy to me. Like, in my opinion, I thought he was just okay with one extreme cringe line.
Are you an angel? What?
This line was so cringe that even KOTOR 2 had to make fun of it.
Are you an angel? Ah, I'm just kidding. That's the worst line I've ever used. Hope some poor kid doesn't start using it.
Overall, this movie to me is mostly forgettable, boring, and annoying, which are the worst emotions to feel for the Star Wars movie, let alone any movie in general, which is why it is last place on my list. Next spot, I have The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, what happened here? Like, honestly, for me, this was such a crappy ending to the Skywalker saga. The only thing that saves this movie from being in last place is I actually like the characters in this movie and I wasn't bored. This movie certainly was not forgettable, that's for sure. The Rise of Skywalker felt like a course correct in the worst way possible, in my opinion. Like, really? Palpatine returned?
Somehow Palpatine returned.
This makes no sense!
Like, they couldn't at least bring Plagueis or anyone else but a clone emperor. There was no need to take inspiration from Dark Empire, which is, by the way, a awful story in my opinion. The Rise of Skywalker also took inspiration from The Force Unleashed by making everyone ridiculously powerful, which I did not like at all. There was also getting rid of the cool ideas from The Last Jedi, like making Rey a nobody, not knowing who Snoke was, making Kylo Ren the main bad guy of the trilogy, and not to mention, they ruined the concept of the Force Bond from The Last Jedi. In The Last Jedi, it wasn't a dyad, some dyad crap or whatever they decided to do with this movie. I like the Force Bond from The Last Jedi because it reminded me of the Force Bond Bastila and Revan shared in the KOTOR games, but whatever they did in Rise of Skywalker was just ridiculous in my opinion. Like, them teleporting from different places and crazy stuff like that. And to really put the nail in the coffin was that really cringe ending.
Rey Skywalker.
We have the granddaughter of Darth Sidious killing off the last Skywalker, and then she steals the name of Skywalker. Like, how does this feel earned when she only knew the Skywalkers for about a year in the timeline? I really disliked a lot of the decisions made in this movie. I think the main positives I can come up with is the music, the main characters, except for Leia, because I really disliked what they did with her character in this movie, and also the planets in this movie were pretty cool, especially Exegol. I really liked the visuals of that planet and thought it was pretty cool. I love seeing Lando back, but why did they wait until the last movie of the trilogy to show him? This movie gives me such a headache because of the decisions made in this movie that I personally did not like, and the extreme rush pacing of this movie. Like, it made me feel like I was on crack or something. It was crazy. Like, they did not slow down at all. Honestly, they should have made the Duel of Fates instead of Rise of Skywalker, and I will never understand why they went with this movie instead of Duel of Fates. I really liked the Duel of the Fates script. I thought I liked a lot of the things that was in that movie, and I think it was a satisfying ending to the Skywalker saga. But this movie, this just feels very unsatisfying, and it feels very disappointing. Up next, I have Revenge of the Sith. Oh boy, where do I start? Mainly, I feel frustration with this movie. Plus, there was a few scenes I cringed at, mainly the stuff with Anakin and Padme.
No, no, it's because I'm so in love with you.
So love has blinded you.
There's a lot that I dislike with this movie, like the way the Jedi got wiped out, the way Yoda acts, Grievous. I really dislike Grievous. And I really dislike the fall of Anakin Skywalker. Look, I get the fall of Anakin Skywalker. I understand the complete story. I've read books. I've heard many people talk about it. I know what it's about. I know everything, so don't act like I don't understand the fall of Anakin Skywalker. I understand, but I still do not like it. There's also the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan that I really disliked. It was so over the top in my opinion, and the way it ended was so dumb.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Who announces they have the high ground while actually fighting? Like, I know there's some sort of like military meaning behind that. My friend was telling me. I think it was stupid. I really hope I like their new duel in the Kenobi series. I'm really excited for that. Kenobi's gonna be dope. Honestly, I haven't really liked any of the duels between Kenobi and Vader. Even in The New Hope, I felt like that duel felt like it was just way too slow, and they were just kind of like tapping sticks. Also, this scene exists. Yeah, it was. I'm not a fan of that. Another thing that I was disappointed by is, once again, I feel nothing for these characters because I either am not invested in them or I kind of don't like them. As much as I don't really care for Padme, I have to say her death was pretty dumb. But she did go out the way her daughter did, so there's that, I guess. Again, I only like Kenobi mainly in this movie. Like, Ewan McGregor is always great in everything he does. The music is awesome in this movie. Some cool scenes here and there, like the space battle at the beginning of episode 3. Also, I really like Mustafar. A lava planet in Star Wars was pretty cool. I used to enjoy this movie a lot as a kid, and this was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters. But I barely remember the experience of watching Revenge of the Sith because I was like 3 years old, I think, at the time. I was really young. The Force Awakens was the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters that I actually remembered because I was much older. Anyways, this is a frustrating movie, and I don't really like it too much. The ending felt rushed as well. It felt like it was just, it was too like wrapped up. It didn't feel like it was a natural ending to the movie. It just felt like it had to end this way to lead up to A New Hope, and it felt forced. Up next is Attack of the Clones. I actually enjoy some things in this movie. There's a bit of mystery going on, which I found to be quite interesting. There is some funny moments as well, like when Anakin jumps out of that ship that they're in, and Kenobi makes a funny quip. And then there's also the scene with death sticks that I always found pretty funny, and it got memed to death, but still a cool scene in my opinion. At the end of the day, I did not like this movie though. The thing that I disliked the most was what they did with Boba Fett. Like, really, the badass bounty hunter from the original trilogy was the clone son of the face of the many clones of the Clone Wars. Like, that was just, what the heck was that? Boba is one of my all-time favorite characters, and I really disliked that they did this to him. Like, just why? Why did Lucas do that? I don't like that. Like, just imagine this for a second. Imagine if they made Han Solo the clone son instead of Boba. Like, just imagine that. Do you honestly think that would have been cool? I don't like that. Like, yikes. Other things I disliked about this movie was all the cringe scenes between Anakin and Padme. Like, unwatchable for me. The fact that Anakin did a massive dark side act before even becoming a Jedi Knight. He slaughtered all those sand people. No, I mean, obviously we want to see Anakin do some dark side things, but he's not even a Jedi Knight yet. He's a Padawan. Like, why are you making him doing such, like, messed up stuff so early on? Like, I'm just, like, this prequel trilogy made me feel like Anakin wasn't someone that fell to the dark side. It was just someone waiting to fall to the dark side. Like as Obi-Wan kind of hinted at in the original trilogy, it was kind of a shock that his best friend would turn to the dark side. Like, no, it's not a shock. Like, I could have saw this coming from a mile away. This guy had some serious issues. Some other things, I don't like Yoda in this movie. Not at all. Count Dooku was just kind of there. I kind of didn't like him either, really. And the pointless CGI clones. It's kind of a bummer that the Clone Wars started at the end of this movie. Like, I really wish we got to see the Clone Wars throughout all 3 movies instead of just 2 movies and we barely see it, you know? To end my review on Attack of the Clones, I'm just going to end it on a positive note. The music and Kenobi were things I liked as well, which shouldn't be a shocker because Kenobi is always great in these movies. Ewan McGregor, A+ performance by him. Alright, now all the negativity is out of me for the most part, because the movies coming up next are the Star Wars movies that I actually like. Don't really like being negative, so I'm happy to be positive. So let's get on to the positive. Alright, so Solo is up next, and I find this movie to be just okay. It was kind of forgettable in some aspects, in my opinion, and I wish this movie was more about discovering the underworld and diving more into what goes on in that part of the Star Wars universe. There's some cool stuff with Qi'ra and Lando, who was great, by the way. I feel this movie has some very forgettable music, to be honest with you. It's probably the worst music out of the entire Star Wars universe in terms of the movies. But yeah, the one thing I passionately dislike about this movie is the way Han comes up with his last name. But I'm just gonna act like that scene did not exist for my sake. Overall, I feel Solo was just okay, and it was a bit forgettable, but it could have been better. It could have been so much better. But for what it is, just find the movie to be okay. Next spot, I have The Force Awakens. I feel this was such a fun movie. I liked all of the new characters very quickly. It was also great seeing most of the old heroes from the original trilogy.
Chewie, we're home.
The First Order felt scary, and there were some questions in this movie that left me with. This truly felt like an adventure with a set of characters, which is what I love about Star Wars, which is the adventure that a core set of characters goes on. One of the many things I love about Star Wars. I appreciate that this movie felt more like the original trilogy, but I felt like it went a little overboard with that feeling. Like, it felt like a semi-reboot of A New Hope. It felt too much like the original trilogy, and that's kind of a negative. I guess they did this because of the course correct of the prequels, but they should have not gone this far, in my opinion. The music is great in this movie, and the lightsaber fight in The Force Awakens is one of my favorites in all of Star Wars. A solid start to the sequel trilogy, in my opinion. Also, this was the first real experience I had with Star Wars in the theaters, which does give it some bonus points for me as well. As I said earlier, Revenge of the Sith was the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, but I was so young I barely remembered the experience seeing it. So The Force Awakens was the first experience with Star Wars that I had in theaters that I actually remembered, and I liked the movie. Up next, I have The Last Jedi, probably the most controversial Star Wars movie of all time, where fan base split in half when it came to this movie. It seems like either fans love or hate this movie. For me, I like this movie, but I don't love it, and not even close to love, actually. Well, I like The Last Jedi mainly because of the stuff with Rey and Kylo and the Force bond that they shared that reminded me of the Force bond that Revan and Bastila shared in KOTOR games. I liked Luke to a certain degree in this movie as well. I think they did go overboard with him being a hermit, like Luke disrespecting his father's lightsaber. think that was a little too far, and they did it for gags, which I did not like. So I think the execution of Luke being a hermit could have been better, but I did not hate the way he was portrayed to be in this movie. I do like the idea of a dark version of Luke Skywalker. I love movies where the hero starts out broken, and by the end they do such a heroic act, and that was what Luke was in this movie. He started off as a very broken character, and I liked his journey that he went through in this movie. Some people say he doesn't feel like Luke Skywalker. I was okay with what they did with this movie, me personally, and it felt like Logan a little bit with the way that with how Luke was in this movie, and I love Logan. So like I said, I kind of gravitate to those kind of movies where our hero kind of falls, and I know many people didn't want to see that. I mean, I kind of, if I'm being honest, I would prefer to watch a hopeful Luke Skywalker. I'm not like rooting for Luke to have a crappy life in the future, but it is what it is, and I mean, for what I have Legends Luke already, you know what I mean? So I don't need to see Legends Luke again, you know, because we already saw him being this positive figure, this Grandmaster in Legends. So it's kind of interesting seeing Luke very different from Legends, and I was okay with it. Also, Luke has such a beautiful ending where he looks up at the two suns. I really loved that, actually. I loved the ending. I think that was perfect for that specific part, where him looking at the two suns and it's kind of like his journey was over. I did like that. Other things I liked was the fact that Rey was a nobody, which I thought was great, because I was getting sick and tired of every freaking person being connected in some big way. I think the only character that was saved from being connected in some big way was Han Solo, but everyone else is like connected in some big way in Star Wars. I couldn't stand that. Plus, the way the scene played out gave me chills.
Do you want to know the truth about your parents? Or have you always known?
They were nobody.
They're filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money. You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
All she wanted to be was a part of something, to be part of a family, but she was nothing, and her parents just abandoned her. Like, I thought that was that was executed really, really well, in my opinion. Also, I did not see that twist coming with her being nobody. I was for sure thinking she was going to be Rey Skywalker or something like that, and I didn't like that, actually. I really didn't want Rey to be anyone special, because I was getting tired of everyone being special in some big way. So I was glad that Rey was a nobody. Thanks, Rise of Skywalker, for ruining that for me. The only stuff I did not like in this movie was the crap with Finn and Rose. I felt like a lot of that stuff was cringe, and the candle bite was not good. Also, I did not care about what they did with Poe in this movie. It felt like it was just kind of there. I know a lot of people didn't like Admiral Holdo. I thought she was just fine. Like, I didn't really bother me that much. I didn't hate those scenes. I just didn't really care for them. Leia was also cool in this movie as well. Actually, I liked when she did that flying through space thing. I know many people made fun of that, said it reminded them of Mary Poppins or something like that. My friend really cringed at that scene when he saw that movie in theaters, but I thought it was just okay. Didn't really bother me. Also, it was great seeing Yoda. Like, that was awesome. I loved seeing Yoda in this movie. I just want to point out one thing, though. Missed opportunity with the sequel trilogy. Why the heck did we not see Force Ghosts, man? That's going to forever bother me. I wanted to see some Force Ghosts kick some ass, but we didn't really see the Force Ghosts at all. We just saw Luke and Yoda. Didn't even get to see Anakin's Force Ghost. We just heard his voice. Lame, in my opinion. Like I said, I like this movie, but it has some problems, in my opinion, which keeps it from me loving it. And I don't think there's a lot of problems I have with Episode 8 that keeps me from loving it. But the things that it does good, I think it does really great. The only thing that they kind of missed a little bit was with Luke Skywalker's execution of him being a hermit. And then the stuff with Finn and Rose was not cool. And then there was the stuff with Poe, which I thought was just okay. Didn't really care for it. Didn't really hate it. Alright, in the next spot, I have Return of the Jedi. Now, I really like this movie, but I don't love it. Obviously, the stuff with Vader and Luke is some of the best scenes in the entire Star Wars saga. Also, in my opinion, this movie has the best lightsaber duel in the entire Star Wars saga, but Luke versus Vader was amazing. Luke being a Jedi Knight, kicking some ass, I liked it. Also, this movie has the best space battle as well. I think the second Death Star spaceship battle was awesome, my favorite. We also have the trio Luke, Han, and Leia on another adventure, and Lando's in this movie too, which was awesome. As much as there's so much to love in this movie, there's quite a few things I find to be dumb. Like, for example, the Ewoks. It's too silly for me. Like, how the heck do these teddy bears take down the entire Empire? Like, I always found that to be too much for me. I don't hate the Ewoks. I just think it's dumb. And I think they should have been Wookiees. I think that would have made Episode 6 better. I also don't get what happened with Han in this movie. Han kind of came off as a little too goofy. And kind of, I don't want to say they ruined his charm, but it just didn't feel right. And I think that's a little bit of a negative for me. Also, the way Boba Fett dies was horrible. Good grief. Like, really? A blind Han Solo taking down Boba Fett? Nah, I didn't like that. I ain't with that. I will also never, ever be a fan of Luke's sister being Leia. When watching Episode 6, it comes out of nowhere. Like, real, it just felt like they just added that in for no reason. It was just kind of weird. And it also it makes a scene weird in Empire Strikes Back, if you know what I mean. I really wish that they brought Luke's long lost sister in Episode 6. Like, originally there was supposed to be like another trilogy where Luke was going to find his long lost sister, but Lucas ended up scrapping that, and instead we ended up getting, well, Leia being Luke's sister, so that whole thing kind of wrapped up quickly. But I think they could have still added Luke's long lost sister in this movie. Maybe like for part of the movie they could have went to go find her instead of having the second Death Star. Maybe they could have went to go find her. Luke and his long lost sister could have teamed up against Vader and the Emperor. I think that would have worked much, much better instead of Leia just being his sister. And it really confuses things and makes the Star Wars saga, or the Skywalker saga, make like less sense. And I do really like Return of the Jedi, but I have some major problems with this movie that keeps me from loving it. So now these movies up next are the Star Wars movies that I really love. I rewatch these next 3 movies a lot because they're great. Yes, and the next spot is Rogue One, and yes, it is a Star Wars movie that I do love. I love a lot of the characters in this movie. I really love the really dark tone in this movie as well. This movie also explores why there was a major flaw in the Death Star, which I really did like that. Darth Vader's a badass, and Darth Vader is badass in this movie. He has that hallway fight, which was awesome, and I just loved his presence. He just like stole the scene every time he was in this movie. Director Krennic, I found him to be entertaining. He was a very memorable villain. Rogue One shows that the rebellion really isn't perfect, and they have some shady crap that goes on in there, which I hope the Andor show explores that aspect of that side of the rebellion. And that's also why I'm pretty excited for the Andor show. Rogue One made me feel a roller coaster of emotions. I was sad, happy, and it was just a cool adventure war movie. I also really liked the space battle in this movie as well. The music was really good in this movie. Some cool action scenes that they had. By the way, Rogue One has such a sad ending and a dark ending. I really loved that. I did not think they were going to end up killing every main character, but they did. They had the balls to do that. I just really love Rogue One. I love watching this movie, and it really put the war into Star Wars, that's for sure. So, my second favorite Star Wars movie is A New Hope. Yes, the movie that started it all. A New Hope is such a classic and is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love the adventure and the world that this movie has. So many great lines and moments that I loved. Fell in love with the characters immediately. Everything about this movie is why I love Star Wars. You have Luke's heroic journey, and he has an intense character arc throughout this movie. Then Han is probably my favorite character in this movie, and I will always stand by him shooting first, which makes him more badass. Leia is funny, and I could not imagine this movie without her. This movie is like magic, and it was a nearly perfect start to the original trilogy. Alright, my favorite Star Wars movie of all time is Empire Strikes Back. It may be my favorite movie of all time as well. I wouldn't change a single thing, as I find this movie to be perfect. I saw this movie in theaters for the first time recently, and this whole movie gave me goosebumps throughout. Empire's what a true sequel should feel like. It made everything bigger, it expanded the universe, it expanded the characters, and it introduced us to new planets and new characters as well. I love the addition of Lando, by the way. He's cool and charismatic. Billy D. Williams plays him perfectly. We're also introduced to one of my favorite characters of all time, which is Boba Fett. This is probably the best we see of Vader in anything. This is my favorite Vader performance in anything Star Wars. Yoda also was introduced in this movie, and I love the way he sees the Force, and his character brings in many themes that I found to be very interesting to the Star Wars universe. In my opinion, Empire Strikes Back has the best plot twist in movie history. I love Empire so much, and to me, it is the best Star Wars movie of all time. Alright, that was fun. I loved making that list, and this is an interesting video to start off my new channel with. I created it when I created Film 1000. I also created this channel too. I always wanted to keep these two channels separate. Originally, I was going to talk about Star Wars and talk about movies and TV shows that I love, but Star Wars is just too big to not have to keep it into a channel with other content. I want to keep this strictly Star Wars. I love Star Wars. Star Wars is my favorite franchise of all time. I really want to get into the books and comics and so much more. My favorite part of Star Wars is actually the Old Republic, so expect a lot of Old Republic content, mainly KOTOR stuff. Star Wars The Old Republic game, I have issues with that. Yeah, so hopefully this is a good video for start. I've only been on YouTube for about a year making Film 1000 stuff, and I wanted to do something for Star Wars Day. I hope to post a lot on this channel. I know there's Kenobi stuff coming out soon, which I'm so hyped about, and I hope to be mainly positive. I know I was talking negative in the beginning about in the video, so expect mostly positive stuff to come from my channel. And yeah, this was an interesting start. All right, to end things here, may the Force be with you always.